So welcome to contract training, you guys. We are always very appreciative whenever anyone shows up, and we've been getting a lot of getting a hefty attendance recently. So again, just thank you for being here. Um, so we're continuing on with our like back to basics June contract trainings. Joni and I got a series of guests who are specialized in these areas. And it's been awesome. Like we had Willis a couple weeks ago, we had Leah Talon last week. Today we've got Maci Odette with the Falk Reuben Gallagher team. Um, Macy is the listing manager with FRG. They move a lot of listings. She's very busy all of the time. So she was the first person I thought of who should go over this list with you guys. Um, and as I said last week too, I don't anticipate this would take the full hour. But we'll open it up for questions and always interject with questions at any time, while Macy's going through the list. So, and before I pass it over to Macy, I want to go over and just make sure you guys know which list we are working from. If I can get it here. So, as you guys know, like from team meetings, from Accelerator, like we're constantly pushing KW Realty MKE.com, and this is no different. So on our internal website here in the agent hub, we've got this wealth of resources. And in here, we've got our new associate resources. So we've got a listing and buyer checklists. And this is the checklist that I asked Macy to go off of today. All three of our checklists in terms of a new listing launch, an accepted offer listing checklist, and an accepted offer buyer checklist are here for you. We're just going to be concentrating on the first one today. And again, I just wanted to make sure you guys knew where to find this. Um, okay, and with that, I think we'll let Macy take it away. So thank you again, Macy.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I hope you all had a good weekend. Like Steph mentioned, my name's Macy. I have an interesting position with Falk and Gallagher. I manage our listing department. So I basically oversee all of our homes come to market. I'm working closely with the clients. I'm helping the listing agent with details and logistics to bring the homes to market. So, they use us as leverage so that they can go out and get more business. And that way they're not working in all the details. We handle that. But they are side by side with us. We're all on, communications, emails, correspondence with the sellers. So I am basically working as an agent for all of you new agents. I am licensed. I know all of the rules and guidelines. So I will try my best to put myself in your shoes and explain it in a way that's easy for you to digest. But I'll just tell you some tips and tricks along the way as well. So as Steph mentioned, off of that first, that new listing checklist, the first thing on that list is adding seller's information to your contacts and command and starting a new listing opportunity. So I'm not going to go through every detail and show you how to do, all of the things on the list, but um Steph, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have specific trainings to go through, like command and all of that stuff as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
so like Macy just mentioned, entering the contact information into command. So we've got Lindsay and I do a separate training on that, which will show you like a deeper dive into like the weeds of command itself. So,
Yeah.
but just know that that's your first step here.
Yeah. So your first step is adding seller's information to your contacts and command and starting a new listing opportunity. That's going to be one of your first steps. Um, what's not on here, and let me just pull up, I guess, my notes that I made for this. I think this will make it a little bit easier, more interactive. So I pulled from the list that everything's in black from the list, and then I just added some notes in red. So
Perfect.
this is not on the list, but what we love to do before we even meet with the sellers is give them homework. So I'll just show you what we typically do. And there's a bunch of different systems you can use. You can just Google like info finder, information that you can just, send your clients if you have questions for them that saves it. But content snare is something that we use. So we send this to our clients before our listing appointment to just help us understand all of the information about their home, right? And then we use this throughout the process as well. So I'll just give you an example. I mean, this is we do a lot of business, as you can see, but I'll just pull up like Old Gate Road here, for example. So this is the request. We ask, all of the information. If anything's changed, typically we have, anything that we need. But so it's usually contact information and then like showing and feedback preferences. That way we can discuss it during our time together. So like, okay, how much notice would you like before a showing? Who would like to or how would you like to confirm showings? Who would like to receive showing feedback? All of that fun stuff. And then I think the juiciest part of this is understanding, is their home a part of an association? What are the ages of all the mechanicals, roof, etc.? What are the improvements that they've made on the home? So this is a huge list of things that will, it kind of just saves while they work through it, but then we can see it afterwards. And this is how we create our marketing materials.
Love this.
Yeah, I know. And then typically we just add on and add on and add on. And my advice for newer agents too is just go through like MLS and look at all the details in MLS, like roofing. What material is there for roofing? Actually, I don't think they have that one on there anymore. That's an old one.
It
But
is. Yep.
yeah, I'm surprised actually by that. But what exterior siding do they have on their siding? Because it's kind of a weird question that you don't think to ask when you're in person with them, but that is a question in MLS. So instead of relying on like a past MLS, or if there's no MLS in the past that's been listed, like how are you going to figure that out? You just have to go and ask the seller, right? So this kind
Right.
of does all that work up front so that you're not asking them a million questions afterwards. Does that make
Um,
sense?
yeah, I want to interject here too, real quick. And this actually, like, Macy had commented right away that she was going off of that new listing checklist. And I think that's a good point to make here too, in terms of like, we're using this new listing checklist for you guys. But as your business grows and as you kind of dive deeper into how you want to launch a listing, like you might be expanding upon this basic checklist. So kind of keep that in mind, like this is just a basic checklist for you. And then these details in terms of, getting the information in terms of like like the nature of the property, you know, like all of the basic details of the property, those are also like separate MLS trainings in terms of that profile sheet, loading that into MLS, etc. So just wanted to say that.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's so many different ways you can go with this. This is our like single family one, but we have other worksheets for condos. We have a different worksheet for a duplex. We have a different worksheet for vacant land. So as your business grows and as you learn more, you just keep adding to these
Mhm.
worksheets. Okay.
I'll also say I've never seen that, for example. So like I love this because I'm learning just another way, another software, another platform that you guys can use. Um, but I think it's just mainly understanding that however you choose to tweak it or approach it is just fine. So all teams are different and all agents are different. So,
Yeah,
okay.
for sure. And it's called Content Snare if you need it. Okay, so that's something we do before we even go to the home. Now, do all sellers fill that out beforehand? Most of them actually do. They do well with it. But sometimes they don't. So it's like a recurring thing where it'll send you a reminder, or it'll send the seller a reminder to fill it out. So we always just ask that it's completed before we put the home on the market, for example.
Awesome.
Okay, so that's the first. That's literally the first step. I added this step and then so the second step on that new listing checklist, sorry, I just want to keep everything straight, is send important dates, deadlines, and next steps to seller. So this would be typically, I'm assuming, after you have a listing appointment. So over communication is awesome when you're working with sellers. They love to know as much information as you can give them. So typically 24 hours or sooner after we meet with a seller, we're reaching out and just going over everything we discussed in our listing appointment. So that, of course, is going to maybe look different for different people, but um, I just threw in one of our templates. Of course, we have like a list of templates for each situation and scenario, but this is like typically what we send after a listing appointment. Like, it was so great to meet you. Here's everything, we discussed and we want to follow up with you on. Timeline, like when are we having photos? What is our target coming soon date? What is our target active date, right? We'll go through that a little bit more.
Love it.
Documents. Here, we are old school and we sign everything in person. Now, this isn't every time. Like sometimes we do send it via Dotloop or DocuSign or what have you. But typically we sign the documents in person. And I've actually really come to love meeting our sellers in person and going through those documents with them, just so that nothing's missed and that they truly understand the documents that you're going through. Um, we've been burned before by not going through them. The
Mhm.
coming soon form, for example. Well, what does that mean? Oh, I let my friend through, when we are in coming soon. Okay, well, that's a violation. So, it's just important. It's been important to us to meet with our sellers in person and really go through those documents. So it's attaching the documents that they're, the executed documents to that email. It's as a reminder, if you can find your prior title, which I'll go through, it'll afford you a discount at closing. So send that over to us if you can. If there's trust documents involved, please send those over to us, as soon as possible so we can have them ready for the closing department when you get an accepted offer. And then this at the bottom here is just like a portal invitation to our CRM that wouldn't apply to anyone, and then just saying, as we move through this process, please do not hesitate to reach out with questions. We're here to help. We could not be more excited to be representing you in your home. So that's kind of like our initial um, email after a listing appointment to kind of kick everything off. Do you want to talk about timeline at all before I get into scheduling professional photography stuff? Like
Well, I
how
think,
it works?
yeah, I mean, I think just kind of giving an idea for how to pick these dates out. And Macy and
Sure.
we were getting ready for this training, just talking about like, okay, you know, what we have found to be a great approach is like picking your go live date, your target. I like that word in there, in your template, a target date, and then working backwards from there. So,
Yep.
you know,
List date. Yeah.
yeah, so if you know that you want to be active and showings are going to begin on, you know, June 28th, that's a Saturday this week, I actually have a listing going live on June 28th. So I worked backwards and I know that it takes two days to get the photos back. So I made sure that it was scheduled on Thursday or before, and then just kind of like mapping that out for yourself um ahead of time, just based off of this target go live date. So,
Yeah, exactly. And it just depends. Every house is so different. But I'd like to say that, I like to be more prepared. So if you have the luxury of time
mhm,
and look at the forecast, always make sure you're taking photos on a bright, sunny day. They just always show so much better. Of course, if you have the luxury of time and nice weather, like the last few weeks in Wisconsin were kind of crazy. So we were having to get photos on a rainy day, but then just do some post-production editing.
okay.
What were my other tips for that?
Um,
Yeah, like project management too. Like it can be tricky to figure out timeline, especially if sellers are requesting a specific date, but it's just in your best interest to give them your advice and tell them everything you can before, going on the market. Um, it just depends how the home looks too. Like if really try and recommend, decluttering and anything you can, like if they need to paint, give them a recommendation for a painter. If you want to become a project manager, I would say do that because the listing will just show so much better. And if they're willing to do the work, why not?
mhm.
Um, I just wanted to show one other thing about prep. So, and these are things that'll come later, after you've worked and done more listings. But um, preparing for photos and showings. Like we send this to most all of our sellers, just telling them everything that we would love for them to get done before we have photos and showings. Like just things that people, we work in this business all the time, so we understand this, but a lot of people don't understand how clean and how prepared and how decluttered spaces should be. So general prep, thoroughly clean the entire property, turn all the lights and lamps on, open all the window treatments, um, hide cords, thin out personal photos, just everything you could think of. I mean, I would just start jotting down list of things for each room. And I can send this to anyone too, just to give you an idea of everything that we hope that our sellers will do. Um, just trying to see what else I have on here. Yeah, and so like that prep doc, that's pretty general, but you could always add, specific rooms to that list. Like, hey, in the den, I want you to move those two chairs over and I want you to completely move a different chair to the basement, or it can be, particular for each room as well.
Yep.
Anything else on that?
I don't think so. I think that's great. I think it's just, yeah, communicating always.
Yeah, I know.
That's,
Over communicate for sure. And I think if you have these assets like this, they'll really appreciate it because some people are so overwhelmed. Like, and you walk through people's homes sometimes and you're like, yeah, move that over here and move that here. Just make notes.
yeah.
That's huge. 'Cause people are already so overwhelmed when they put their home on the market. Like, if you can just what Lindy and I do is my colleague that's on this call too, is we just open up our notes app and we're walking around the home and we're just typing away anything and everything that we notice, and we'll just add it to that prep doc or just put it in an email to them. Just give them an overview. It's so helpful.
I'm gonna tie this in, Macy, a couple weeks ago we had Willis on here and we went over the like Google Drive and how we can incorporate the Google Drive with our business. And um, like my process is I go through a home, I'm taking notes the way Macy had described, and then I'm putting everything into a Google Drive spreadsheet.
Mm,
Room by room, I'll do a column of living room, a column of kitchen, a column of bedroom, etc. And then I'll write down all the notes and like the action items that I want a seller to do, and I'll share that with them through the Google Drive.
love
Um,
it.
and it's a living doc that, they can access at any time. They can check, they can use it as a checklist themselves. Um, so yeah, that's kind of why we all want, like, really want you guys to see how we can work all of these different systems together.
Yeah,
So
that's a great idea. I might just use that next. We do that for homes when we have a ton of projects. Like we call ourselves project managers on some of these homes because they require painting, staging, flooring, carpet cleaning, handyman. Like there are some projects where I have spreadsheets that like so long. So you have to
yeah,
like stay organized and stay on top of it because then on top of it you have invoices, lien waivers, did they pay this for, all of those things. So the more organized you are for your clients, the more they'll appreciate you.
yes.
Okay. The next thing on the list was, so obviously you schedule your professional photography and then it says to send pictures to the seller. And that's great. We send our pictures to our sellers too. I think the biggest thing, just a pro tip because we've been burned before, is be sure you have not that you wouldn't, but be sure that you have a signed contract when you send photos to your sellers. Or if you don't for some reason, have the photographer watermark them because we've literally had it before, and not that we're too nice, but we give agents the benefit of the doubt, but we've had other agents use our professional photos
Oh
that
man.
we paid for that we took. So we never want to burn any bridges or have a bad relationship with any agents, but we typically, would have them pay for it. So
Yeah,
just pro tip there.
thank you for that.
Oh, and then the other thing for photos. So say you're working with a seller, and sometimes this happens, like hey, okay, it's October and and a seller reaches out to you and wants to list their home. Okay, then they decide that they want to wait until spring to list, right? When you have certain clients like that, what we typically do is we get photos. If it's October and it's, all the leaves are pretty on the trees, get exterior photos then, because then you have those beautiful exterior photos for when you put the home in when everything is, gray and brown outside.
Yeah.
So
Good idea.
Okay, order sign installation via Wisconsin Signs or West Alice Blue. So you're going to order your signs through whoever you use. We always say to make sure to order the sign like 2 days or a day before the coming soon phase. Now that just depends on who you use and how quickly they are to install signs. I mean, if you have a text rider on top or a phone rider on the bottom, why not have that sign go out as soon as possible to start marketing the home?
Yep, I think 48 hours is a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, and then install lockbox and add to the door. So this, you can install this lockbox whenever you so choose. If it's at the listing appointment because it's your friend and they have the key ready, great. If it's at the photo appointment, great. Or it's just, when you're dropping off marketing materials like right before it lists. Um, I guess the big pro tip I had here was if you have a bunch of lock boxes and they all have different codes and what have you, I would start a spreadsheet. So just an example, we keep in lockbox inventory. So we have like one of those mini printers that we just print like a number on top of the lockbox. And then, you can coordinate the number to the actual lockbox code so that when you get it back, you know what the code is. I would not do the same code for every lockbox that you have. Just for safety purposes, if someone realizes that you have the same code for every home, I don't know, you just never know.
Yeah.
Mix it up. Mix it up. Um, Okay, and then next on the list is adding the listing into MLS. So I guess I can just show you really quick. I'm assuming you all know how to do this, but if not, you have a menu here. You're going to go to incomplete. Well, I guess if you're going to add a listing for the first time, you're going to click add, right? And then you're going to start working through this and adding your listing. And then what you can do is, which it says on here, it says save as incomplete. So you can work on this as soon as you know that you have a listing coming up. You can work through this, 123 North Main Street, right? And then save incomplete listing. And then you can always, okay, it's going to geocode me for sure. Sure, use this location. Um, you can save an incomplete listing and just go back to it. So then you can find it, go to menu again. You're looking at incomplete. Okay, and then you can go back to 123 Main Street and edit. So work through this as you get the listing, and then you can work through it as you figure out your timeline and all that. So then adding your photos, you'll get the photos back from the photographer. Now you can add them from the photographer if they're in the system, right? You can use that new feature, or you can do it old school like we do and add all the photos and crop them and do some post-production editing and then add them this way. What else is on here?
And I will say, inputting a new listing into MLS is a separate training as well that is
Yeah.
offered by MLS, which I believe in the Google Classroom for our newbies is in there, but it's also available via MLS as well. But
Okay. Yeah, so I won't go through all the details, obviously, just showing an overview. Okay. And then set up a line showing rules. Here, I'll just go back to my list quick.
actually, Macy, if you want to go back to the MLS,
Yep.
back to that editing the listing.
Sorry, 1 second.
Um,
Yeah, do you want me to show how to edit a listing?
yeah, well, I want to show where the aligned showings,
Oh, yep. Incomplete.
yep, so just go to that fake 1, 2, 3,
Yep.
4. So, yep, I think it's the
Details
details.
right here.
The showing service. So I will point this out. So some of our agents will use aligned, and if so, then you're just going to leave that as the default. Some of us use showing time, and if that's the case, then you would use the non-MLS showing service. I think for our new agents, you guys don't know the different systems, so I wouldn't say like try learning both. I would just use aligned right away. Um, and again, that'll be for the interest of time, we can't go through every single, but Align Showings has its own setup training as well. And all of these are really straightforward. But what we want you to hear is that this is a part of, the listing launch process. Once this listing were into MLS, then you would be able to access aligned showings, and then that's where you're going to put in the seller information, the lockbox code, the lead time, the seller's um, contact information for receiving notifications, etc. So
Right.
that's all we'll say about aligned for now.
Okay, and then next on this list is schedule open houses in MLS. Um, I mean, I'm here, so I can just show you something that I recently have been using too, which is great, is, well, here are your active listings. So I'll randomly pick one here. So if you want to edit one of your listings that's already on the market, you can just click that down arrow and go to edit listing. If I wanted to add an open house, I would just scroll down to public open house and then add it here. What's great is you can add your broker's opens now too. Oh shoot, it went out, sorry. So like just this morning, I added one for one of our listings going live tomorrow. So you can see here's broker's open house and you can add that as well, which I think is awesome because then the agents can see it in MLS too and not just, receive it via Willis.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I
Are
think
there are there any questions so far? We have no one's had to interject, but okay, we'll keep
I
going.
think Oh, the only pro tip I had with open houses is if you're not hosting your open houses, make sure, I know this might be pretty common sense, I guess, but if you're not hosting your own open houses, please let the agent know any, information that they need to know. There's nothing worse than having an agent that doesn't know anything about the house when you go there for an open. So just a pro tip there. And then upload executed listing docs in Command. Um, Make sure you're doing this 7 days after the term start date. So that's that coming soon date. If you do a coming soon date, it's not your active date. Anything to mention there, Miss Compliance?
No, we do want to make sure that we're adhering to the 7-day rule. So again, once all of those documents are executed, getting them loaded into your command opportunity and submitting it. And it might be hanging out for approval for a bit, but it really just helps us. We get a lot of opportunities and yeah, we just need them submitted in a timely manner. So
And I would say always, like, I've done this probably a million times at this point, but if something's happening with your seller or if you're getting any pushback about a document, just reach out to Joan or Steph and they can help you. Or just giving them a heads up, like, hey, this is running a day late and this is the reason why.
yeah.
I feel like you're always easy to work with when we can over communicate and
Oh,
explain.
totally. Yeah. Yes.
Um, okay, and then if the seller is using focus title, I think Steph, you were going to touch on this about the authorization form.
Oh, actually, the authorization form, a lot of title companies are taking this on themselves in terms of communicating with the seller to get it directly. Um, Really, when it comes to title, I think the most important thing right here, providing the prior title, and Macy had actually already commented on it before. But that
Right.
is what yeah, I'll let Macy finish off with that. But the authorization form, I'll probably have the guys update the checklist because I don't think we need that on there anymore.
Oh, good. Okay, I was gonna say I don't really do anything with that. So I mentioned this when I was talking about the content snare, like that listing information worksheet we send to our clients before our listing appointment. So we request this beforehand and tell them what it looks like and why we need it. So they usually perk up when we tell them that it affords them a discount at closing because I think when sellers are, closing on their home, they'll take anything that they can get. It's not big. It's like a couple $100 depending on the sale price, I think, right?
Yep.
But it is helpful to just let them know that if they have it, please, hand it over and we'll give it to the title company and then they won't have to pay like a couple $100 at closing. Um, okay, that's title. Next on our list is creating marketing materials to place inside the home. So you can really do whatever you choose here. I know it's always constantly changing what agents are doing. During COVID, we had a lot of QR codes. You can still use QR codes. What we found is a lot of people don't use them when they're in the home. People are kind of consumers, buyers are going back to kind of using print materials. They like seeing things in hand. So we typically print a date. We make like a little binder and we print the data sheet, the list of improvements and age of mechanicals, which I'll go over. If you have like an about this home from the seller, cute little doc like that, I'd pop that in there. The condition report, the addendum S if applicable, before 1970, the home was built before 1978. Community information. You can really add anything, a survey, whatever you think buyers will find helpful. I would just have it on hand at the house, just for ease. And then going back to list of improvements and age of mechanicals. So again, going back to that listing information worksheet, this is why we do this, because everything I feel like stems back to that. We create a long list of their improvements if they have them, and then age of mechanicals. So what I was finding when I first started in this position was we'd put a home on the market, but then a lot of agents were coming back and asking like a million questions. So I found myself working more hours and answering more emails. So it's work smarter, not harder. So that's why we kind of made that listing information worksheet so that we weren't having to, we do all the work up front so that we're not having to answer all of these agents' questions. And also, they usually want these questions answered before they write an offer. So having this all up front is so helpful because the agents are like, oh, I know how old the furnace is. I know how old this is. And if you don't know, or if the sellers don't know how old something is, put not aware. Because if they see something on that list, or if they don't see like, okay, there's a sump pump in the basement, but we don't know how old it is, they might still reach out to you and say, hey, how old is that sump pump? If you have it on the list of or the age of mechanicals, like sump pump, not aware, people won't ask you.
Yeah.
So I'll just pull this up here. I mean, we make our materials in Canva, but this is one of our listings that we're launching tomorrow. Like everything that they've done. So we've got seller's list of improvements. I think there's a couple pages of it. Age of mechanicals. So roof, windows, heating and cooling, hot water heater, refrigerator, stove, oven, dishwasher, everything you can think of. So all the years are right there. And then other notes that we add too, just like, hey, what are your quarterly water sewer? And again, this happens over time. We found what are people asking the most? What do the agents and the buyers want to know? And we literally just stuff it all into one document. Average monthly utilities. You can get these easily from We Energies. We just have our assistant call. Whenever we have a new listing, we have her call and find out what the average utilities are.
Macy,
So
I have a
yeah,
question. Well, it's a reminder.
yeah.
I noticed on all those things you have per seller or per municipality. And
Mhm.
that's a good reminder that the listing agent really needs to refer to where they got the information. Otherwise, it's assumed that it comes from the agent and it makes
Yep.
the agent a little more liable. So I like seeing that on there.
Love it. Yeah, great reminder. Yeah, this is always nice to just kind of stick in any marketing materials that come from you, but actually came from someone else. Yeah, perfect. Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Yep, I think that's pretty much it for marketing materials. Anything else? Any questions on marketing materials or anything you want to add, Steph?
Not really.
Okay.
Uh, no, I don't.
I think the last thing on this list then is create additional marketing materials. So um, the world is your oyster here. You can really do anything and everything when you have a new listing. You can do a video reel, you can do a cinematic video, you can um, do social media posts, endless social media posts. You can email your database, let them know that this home's coming on the market. You can door knock. We have some of the most productive agents in the area still door knocking on our team. No one is below door knocking. Okay. Postcards, printed materials, all that stuff is good. Listings have babies. Put your sign out there, door knock, do all of the things because it will pay off. We've seen it happen time and time again. Shot it from the rooftops.
Um, I think too, just like hopefully you guys can see like a takeaway from this too, is just like systematizing everything. Excuse me. Like all of these things on this list should happen by the go live date or the day after in terms of like the post, like the additional marketing things, those can happen like the day after, but like you always operating on a deadline with these things. So, um, again, like as Macy said, like really front loading all of this and the bulk of the work is happening right up front, so that you can head off any questions later on. So
Yeah, I think a big thing too, I don't know if I mentioned this, but having everything ready up front is huge because if you're doing this alone, like obviously like Lindy and I help all the agents on our team with listings, but if you're just starting out and you have a new listing, you want all the details ready up front because then you're gonna be working through offers and negotiations. So you don't want to be like answering everyone's questions and working through offers and negotiations. Like you might as well have all of that ready to go so you can truly focus on the offers.
yeah, that's a very good point. And with teams, Macy has the luxury of like this is siloed into her specialty. And so, once there is an accepted offer, like a whole nother department takes that on. So um you can kind of think of yourself and like operate, you know, as a little mini team of yourself and your resources. So it's all the same stuff. It's just, depending on the volume, that's when there creates a need for bringing more people into it. So,
Yeah, for sure. And run off this checklist and then just add, it's blurred out, but the new listing checklist, start there and just keep adding checklist items and systemize everything that you possibly can systemize because it'll totally pay off.
Jolene, do you have any good tips for us for an unexpected death of an owner? Okay, this is
Mhm.
I think we might need to talk offline about this. Paperwork is MIA.
Oh,
Um, yeah, I think we should handle this and as a separate like compliance issue.
I think well, yeah, but I could make a comment about that. We actually just had something like this happen where
Oh,
one of the sellers passed away. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller are well, were married and then Mr. passed away and he was the only one on title and Mrs. was trying to sell the home. So, well, she is trying to sell the home right now. So we had to go to a title company and well, they were using affiliate or attorney's title and have it switched over to Patricia's name. I think it was her name was Patty. So just making sure that no one deceased is on title before you sell it, or else that's not going to go through.
okay.
And if the seller is the only owner that dies, that listing stops the moment you hear he's right. So there's no listing at all when the only seller dies.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's kind of a shock sometimes.
Yeah, I think like moral of the story here is look at what I always do, and this is one of the things on our list, is look at the tax records before you even meet with your sellers. Who's on the title? Is it in a trust? Is it in both Mr. and Mrs. name and one of them's deceased? Like always looking at that. And then I always look at any special assessments on the tax records because any good agent is going to ask you, like Bayside, for example, they have that B bond.
Mm.
Always look into that and call the city or call the village of Bayside and figure out how much do they have left on their B bond and how much longer do they have to pay this off. Just being knowledgeable and taking care of anything that you can before it hits the market again. Being proactive, not reactive, is probably one of the best things you can do in the business.
Awesome. Yeah, Jolene, we'll find out exactly what the situation is. One of us will call you. Any other questions? This was great, Macy. This
Yeah,
is
I feel like I mean, if you need me back we could dive into each one of these for an hour. So
yeah.
I didn't know where to how much information to give, but please, if you need anything or if anyone on here has any questions offline, please email or give me a call.
And we'll get the list of everybody who has been on here. And Macy already said she's willing to share some of these resources. So yeah, we'll email those out to the group.
Yeah, we really appreciate that because you've put many hours into thinking this system through, and it's nice, very nice of you to share it.
Yeah,
Yes.
of course. And all of these systems come from an experience. Or
Mhm.
each question on our homework comes from, okay, well, we had this bad thing happen once, we better, ask this question now.
So
So yeah,
contracts are in things too. So
yeah, I bet.
all right, anything else? Okay, that was wonderful. Next week is Andrew and Nicole Keel. And I had shown you guys from our agent resources page our 3 checklists. So Macy just went through the first page, and then Andrew and Nicole are going to go through this pages 2 and 3. All right, I think that's that.
Thanks.
All right, take care,
Good
everybody.
luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.